Hey everybody, welcome back to another Dice Tower review. My name is Z Garcia.
I'm Camilla Cleghorn.
I'm Mike Delisio.
Today we're taking a look at Expedition here, which is a deck building exploration game in which you are traversing this map, you are exploring it as you go, and you are trying to find some relics. Find them, dig them up, get 2 of those, you win the entire thing. Pretty straightforward idea, with some interesting twists along the way. Before we get into the weeds about this, let's go ahead and take a look at how the game works, give you a look on the table, a quick overview, and we're going to be right back. Here we go. Here I'm going to be showing you the playing area for one player with their board and their starting deck shuffled up, ready to go. But everybody has one of these in the game. You'll have a deck and a discard pile over here, and then some helpful information in the center, which I will go over in a bit. You are going to shuffle up the deck of cards. You are going to reveal 4 cards. If you do happen to reveal a duplicate, like this one here, then you are going to go ahead and stack those together and reveal another one over here. So that there are 4, not just 4 cards, but 4 distinct cards available to the players in the game. And then every player draws a hand of 5 cards from their shuffled deck. The start player gets no money to begin, but the other players get 1 coin each, more than the last person. So second player gets 1 coin, third player gets 2, so on. And then we are ready to go. You are going to have a piece that represents you. So I'm yellow, so I'll be this little piece. And we will say there are 3 players in this one with their starting pieces right here in the starting area. These tiles have been randomized, but by levels. So the ones with the 1 pip make up these 3 bottom levels, then 2 pips, and then 3 pips at the top there. And among those 3 pips, the highest level, among those there are 5 relic tiles, which is how you win the game. Whoever is the first player to find and or dig up, basically to get 2 of these relics, is going to win the game. On the back of those tiles, there's going to be an image that matches this. When that thing is revealed, you can put this on it to denote there it is. And then the player can spend some shovels, which I'll talk about, to dig it up. And then they have it. Get 2, you win the entire thing. All right? That's how it works. So here's what I'm doing on my turn. I have my hand here of 5 cards, like I said. And the first thing I can do is play these cards, as many as I want to, and I'll be taking actions with those things. So there's a few different symbols which are up here, like I said, and then the tiles will have things that you are likely to find there. So this explains what you are likely to find in each of the different types of habitats, I guess. The boot over here, it means you can move. So if I play this card and I discard it when I do so, I have 1 movement point. I can move from here to this tile because it takes 1 movement point. I can move here for 1, but not this one or this one because those take 2 and 3 respectively. But of course I have more movement. If I really want to, I can move to those. So let's say I'm going to go ahead and spend 1 and move in there. If it's the first time anyone's moved in there, we're going to go ahead and flip it over. Flip that over, and it shows that in that location, I can spend a shovel and dig up 1 coin. So I happen to have a shovel right here, so great. I'll go ahead and do that. I will spend that shovel. I will grab a coin, and I will put that on my player board there. So that's 1 symbol, and now the shovels, you also understand. You can spend those to dig things up, including the relics, which are always 3 shovels. There's also this symbol here, which is coins. I can spend that and simply take a coin. And with this movement, well, I could continue moving if I want to. 1, 2, 3, I can spend that and move in here. By the way, if you had extra movement, it sort of goes into a pool. So if I have 7 movement, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 2 more, so if I can discard 1 more movement, I could then go in here with a 7, So it all goes into sort of a pool of shovels and movement, and you can spend it on your turn however you want to. But with those 3, I'm going to go ahead and move in here. We'll reveal this one. It also happens to be a shovel location, and this one says I can spend 1 shovel there to remove a card from my discard pile. So this is one way to thin out the deck. All right. Now at the end of my turn, of every turn, I have a choice to make here. I can either call it even, discard any cards I want to from my hand, or keep them, and draw back up to 5. Or I can come back to base camp. In this game, unlike in many deck building games, likely all of them, when your deck runs out, you do not shuffle your discard pile and make a new deck. You need to come back to camp to do that. And when you come back to camp, that's also when you may purchase these cards or one of these, which is a stack of identical cards. All right? So for right now, perhaps I'm okay with that, and I would simply draw my next 5 cards. And the next player would go. They would move around. Perhaps they'd go, okay, here for 1, and they reveal this. Some of these tiles are going to have, instead of shovels, they'll have these treasure chests. And that means you get whatever it says once for free if you're the one who revealed it. And then it never again. It doesn't work anymore. So that player perhaps will do that. Perhaps they'll move in here for another 4, and they will reveal that. Hey, look at that. They got 2 coins on that one. So they're doing pretty well. And maybe they're done and they'll stop there. And then the next player would go and do whatever they want. When it comes back to me, I'll continue from where I was. So I would take a look at my hand here and figure out what I want to do. I could do 1, 2, 3, 4 perhaps if I want to move. I can also use the shovel immediately. This can be done once per turn. So if I start my turn there, I could do it. If I end my turn there, so I could do it basically at the end of my turn, right, or last turn, and again this turn. So perhaps I'll do that. I'll discard that one, and I'll thin out my deck with one of these singular movement cards. And then I'll move 1, 2, 3, 4. Another thing to take note of, if a card has multiple abilities, you can do one of them. So I'm going to use this for the movement, not the shovel or the coin. Move for 4. I can jump in here, and I would reveal that one. That one also happens to be a shovel. But, again, these possibilities are listed here, the things I'm likely to find, right? So it's coins in the jungles, movement in the mountains, and so on. There's a couple of symbols here I haven't explained, but I will in just 1 second. Let's say I'm done here and I come back to camp. If I come back to camp, I discard my hand, everything, my discard pile and my deck, it's all discarded, and then I get to spend coins to buy something. I can buy as many as I have coins for, but they do not replenish until I'm done. So if I only have a couple of coins here, I can spend them, get rid of it, and possibly buy this card. It goes in here, and then it all gets shuffled up into a brand new deck from which I draw an opening hand of 5 cards, and only when I'm done purchasing do we reveal something new. So a couple of new symbols here, the last 2 symbols I haven't talked about. This little fella has one here. It's a backpack, which is the same as this symbol right here. And that backpack is draw cards from your deck. So if I play him during my turn, I get to draw 2 cards from here. And then the last one is this rest symbol right here, which means take that many cards from your discard pile and put them at the bottom of your deck face up so that you can use them again when you get to that spot. Because again, you do not shuffle your discard pile into your deck when your deck runs out. You need to come back to camp to do that. There you go. So that's the way that works. So you'll be making these progressively longer trips up, exploring, flipping new things, but also revisiting places that have shovels and digging there again. Finding, in this game, for example, this would be a very interesting game because there's going to be a nice amount of discarding and thinning out your deck. It's right here. It's fairly accessible right down the middle. So maybe this game will, feature a lot of thinning out of decks. So you're doing that until eventually, again, you're finding up here the relics. So maybe I make it onto this water tile, I flip it over, and hey, would you look at that? It's the relic. If I have 3 shovels, I can dig it up right now, and I have one. If not, like I said, we'll mark it with this, just as a visual aid that, hey, this is where the relic is. You don't need it, but there you go. And then as soon as someone digs that up, we'll get rid of this one so that it's been taken, right? The player will get that. And when somebody has 2 of them, they win, game's over. There you go. The only thing I guess I didn't mention is what these guys are doing over here, and that is pretty simple. These fellas are going to help you carry those relics back to camp. Whenever you dig up one of the relics, you need to take 2 of these elephants cards, happy elephants they're called, and you're going to throw them into your discard pile, which means they'll make it into your deck. What do? Absolutely nothing. They clog up your deck. And they're happy for everybody else, not so much for you. All right, so this is one that I saw at Essen. Mm-hmm. I think you saw it there too.
I did too, yeah.
Maybe you're the one who actually told me, hey, go check this game out.
It may have been me. It may have been me, yeah.
I forget that.
Yes.
But, Yeah, so I went over there and I took a look at the game, and it looked interesting on the table. I wasn't quite sure what I was looking at. The demo was a little touch and go, but it looked like there was something there that was clever and interesting, and that main thing was this idea of you start your expedition always from base camp, and you have one deck pass through to make it as far as you can or want to. And then if you want to shuffle your deck and get a brand new deck, something we take for granted in every deck building game, you need to reset back to camp. And that's when you shuffle up your deck and when you can buy new cards and shuffle them up in there. And that right there was enough of a twist for me to go, there's something here. I don't know if it's going to work out or not, but that's a really clever idea. And I think it does work out. I think that idea is really interesting. It's sort of the crux of the whole thing. This whole game kind of hangs on that idea. And it does that well.
I think so. I think it makes it where you have to balance your deck as you're building it. You know, you can't, in a lot of deck builders we see, I'm going to go with this strategy and really lean into this symbol and just try and run that out, you know, and really strategize there. This makes you build a balanced deck. It's not like, all right, end game, you definitely have to make sure you have shovels. But end game, you also have to make sure you can get to those top levels, which means you're going to have the boots to get there. So there's not really, it kind of gives it a good balance to the game where you always at every stage need all the symbols. You know, there's not a shift, if you will.
And that's something I normally don't like in games. A game that forces you to do it all. Like that's sort of my big complaint about Agricola. And Agricola, it's like, well, if I have to do it all at one point in the game or another, then there's not real, you know, I'm not really specializing in anything. It's the same stuff. Oh, I'm collecting sheep now, and you're collecting sheep in 6 turns, but we both did it all, right? So I find that a little bit of a letdown, and again, Agricola specifically. I don't dislike it in this game because it's a balancing act. That's what it is, right? It's the idea of, oh no, I'm getting too good at movement, but I can't do anything else. Shift.
And I agree, it's a balancing act, but the other thing that it does, the way the game is designed, is it reinforces this feeling of exploration. And I'm really glad you brought that up because when I first played this, I thought of it more as a racing deck building game. I kept quantifying it with Quest for El Dorado, a Reiner Knizia deck building race game. And you're right. Exploration is a bigger element than a race because there's a semi-random setup every game, right? You know, the 1-level tiles will be at the closest, and then the 2s and the 3s, which was where the relics are. But you're not going to have every tile from every array in each game, and they're going to be at different places. And so what I have found is that exploration is going to determine the type of cards you might be more likely to go for. Because if you happen to have a lot of movement tiles in the first round, or in the first or second, or gold tiles, that can influence maybe the kind of cards you're going to get. And it'll be different from game to game. You know, you're going to see some gold tiles, you'll see some movement tiles, you'll see some, you know, dig tiles, what have you. But that exploration really is reinforced through that. It's like, okay, and usually there's a couple of different routes that you can kind of take.
Paths develop. Actually, it's interesting because I already shot the overview for this when I'm recording this now. We're recording this. And in that setup, you'll see it in the overview, or you saw it already. There were a couple of tiles right near the center where everybody can sort of make it to very easily that are deck thinning locations. So I'm like, in this game, because these tiles are right here, there's going to be very lean decks. You know, where that won't always be the case. So, yeah, you're right that the exploration informs the gameplay. And that's interesting. I find that to be, you know, every game's going to be a little bit different.
And it is interesting that you do kind of get these paths to the top, but they all each have their own personality. You know, if I just want to race to the top because I need to save up all my movement and save up all my shovels for those top cards, which are hard to reach and hard to excavate, then I'm going to take the shortest path, you know. But if not, if I want to pick up some gold along the way and just go one more, you know, and so you do see that strategy of the paths. And I think in the 3-player that we played together, all the paths were used multiple times,
Yes.
you know, and so it's who balances their deck, but also who is planning each of their runs up to maximum effort, or to maximum efficiency, I should say. But the other side of that, because it is a balancing act, it's also not who balances the best. There's quite a bit of luck in this game.
Yeah, and I was going to
and
mention that.
really swung the game.
Yeah, it does.
You know, I mean, to speak on, again, the three-player, the playthrough where it was the three of us, I think I discovered that level 3 looking for one of the relics. I had excavated 4 or 5 of them and had none. You excavated 2, and both of them happened to be at that end of the game. And it was like, oh my gosh. I mean, and I'm not upset about that. It was just funny just to you see that huge swing of luck, you know. And I thought that was interesting.
You do have to be prepared for that, 100%.
You do. You have to know that.
Yes.
There is the that luck of that flip. I mean, it reinforces the exploration. There is that you know. But
Well, you went in there prepared with shovels for one thing, so you didn't explore them and then have to leave.
Right.
And when you do explore something that is not the relic, the ultimate, goal, ideally you're getting something pretty juicy out of that.
Right.
Again, if you have shovels and you're ready to dig up maybe a bunch of gold or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So there is luck, certainly, but there's a solid amount of preparation that's going to be necessary, I feel, to do well in this game,
There is, and there's a couple of, there's some actions that are very straightforward. The movement actions, the digging actions are straightforward. There's a couple of actions that the subtleties and the importance of them maybe reveal themselves as you play through the game more often. I'm talking primarily about the camp action, which allows you to take cards from your discard, and you can choose, whatever the strength of that camp is, 2 or 3. You can go through your discards, take those cards, put them at the bottom face up of your draw deck.
Yeah.
And so that allows you to do some very clever plays, but it's something that is subtle and takes some time to see.
Yeah.
There's also an action that allows you to get a larger hand of cards, which, as you were saying, can have you go on longer expeditions. And so it's nice that, there are some very clear, straightforward things, but there's a little more subtlety in this game than I think I realized, at least certainly through my first play or so. I played it solo first, which I'll put it out there right now, I don't necessarily recommend it as a solo game. It's a very different experience multiplayer.
And I should say that also I tried it 2 and you tried a 2-player, and it's also not the best at 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it is, you want to play this at 3, you want to play this at 4.
Yeah, I agree.
Does it go to 5? I
think
it goes to 4.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
I
just
think
to 4.
5
So
would be.
3 and 4 is kind of really
Also.
where you want to be. At solo, I have not tried what Mike did, not so hot. And at 2, it felt a little prescribed, and it was more of a slog.
Slog is the word I was going to say.
There's fewer people revealing stuff.
Right.
Right? Because if
And
I'm
the
not
map is the
revealing
same
it,
size, right?
the map is almost the same size.
Yeah.
The relics are not shuffled in, so there isn't that suspense. They're at the top. You know where they are.
Okay.
I don't love that. But also, if I'm not revealing it, I have to count on you to reveal. That's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With 3, there's a lot more sort of, I can see the path and I can go, okay, well, that's a pretty sweet, run I can make up there. Or, no, I'll do some more revealing on my own. You can do that too. Yeah, I just felt better with a higher player count. So there you go.
Can we mention just quickly a couple of component issues? We didn't really talk about components much at all. This is a game coming from Korea Board Games. It is a game that has, our copy has English rules in the box.
Yes.
The text on the cards is in Korean, but it's generally language independent, as long as you've got the rules. So that to me is perfectly fine. The quality of the cards seem fine. The little wooden markers are great. I have no issues with that. I did think that 2 of the terrain types, the green terrain types, were a little close for comfort for me, and that can matter because there are particular cards that allow you to either traverse or dig on a particular terrain type, and you want to make sure you have
the right
those correct.
Or
so.
in looking for relics, it's one of 3 tiles, and if you get it mixed up, it's like you might, I just excavated these 2. We've already found that relic because I got them mixed up, so it can lead to that as well.
Yeah, so I did want to mention that. There are a couple of slight component issues, nothing that I think I would not even enough to necessarily mark down a score, but something to mention, to be aware of, and Korea board games, sometimes their games are more readily available in other parts of the world than others.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get picked up by other publishers or distributors. I don't know the case for this one. We got it at Essen, as you said.
Yeah.
I think the other component thing is I think the meeples are really good, but because they're not screen printed or anything, they just look like weird shapes.
That's true.
And if you see your characters and you see it and you're like, oh, okay, maybe. I think I would have been fine if they just went like with a pawn or like a generic shape or, still a custom shape maybe for the game, but like the characters don't quite come through on those, and so it just looks a little disjointed more than actually pulling your character
There's like
in.
one or two that are like, oh, it's clearly a beak on a bird or whatever.
Right.
And there's a couple that are a little blobby, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I do like the art on the cards, though. I should mention
I as
that.
well.
The art on the cards is charming.
It is very charming, yeah. This is one, like you said, Mike, about the availability, that I hope is available soon and widely, because I really do like it. I'm going to give this game an 8. I thought that main twist of deck building, where the deck does not just shuffle up and become a new deck, which is, again, has been a staple of deck building from day one. This takes that away and says, no, you have a deck pass through to make it to where you're going and exploring, or you need to reset and try again with your new improved deck. I find that really engaging. I think this is a great, fast-paced, like you said, charming game that I really enjoyed. If I'm looking for a deck-building game at 3 or 4, this is in rare company, actually. There's a few games, Quest for El Dorado, Dale of Merchants, I think, is a good game in this style for 3 or 4. But this is up there for me, for that kind of game. To be fair, I'm not the biggest deck-building fan, but this one stands out. So I'm giving this one a nice, strong 8. Really liked it.
I'm going up to an 8 as well, and I say up to because I don't think I could take it higher than that. For the main reason being, it's listed as 1 to 4 players. And I feel like this is a 3 to 4 player game. There's not a variant for 2 players, but there is an little bit of an alternate setup. But I just don't think it was very good. I think it slogged. I thought it was just you just scraped by. I mean, we played the 2-player that we were in together was 35, 40 minutes, and we had barely just made it into like the 2nd level.
Yes.
And I would like to see games like this just own what they are. It's a 3 or 4 player game. Done. And I really think that that's what this game should be played at. Based on your experience, I didn't play solo. Based on what you said was solo.
At 2 only, it would get a lower score, yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so, but that 3 to 4 was really rewarding. I was in a different camp than you. I did like that you knew up top where the 4 are, because I did find that luck to be that swingy of the luck. I understand deck building and shuffling in your hands, and it might get a frustrating hand, but still you have that skill set of I'm going to best utilize what I'm drawn with the luck I've been given.
Okay.
Turning over, you're searching for these relics and going through 4 or 5 tiles and getting none, and then boom, boom, in 2 turns you won the game, and it's like, all right, that doesn't feel great. That's not a great ending to the game. It definitely did not ruin the whole experience for me. I think 8 is still really good because I really did like you said, that hook of going through your deck, really having to plan when do you go back home, preparations for that long journey. All right, this one's going to be a long journey, but I'm going to go and just resource collect. I'm not going to try and make it all the way to the top. And planning those expeditions versus the actual long expedition, race to the top and use your resources up there. I really liked that developing strategy, having to plan out the deck, what cards to buy, just the decisions, just everything felt so meaningful. And a good balance of maintaining your deck, planning ahead, and dealing with the cards you're dealt, literally. I really enjoyed that balance. So for me, it's an 8.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Player count is definitely affecting my final score, because if this was a excellent solo game, I would have given it an 8.5. As it is, I'm slotting right in here.
So it's an 8.
It is an 8 now, and because the solo game is essentially a timer game where you're having to kind of you have through the deck of cards basically to get to the relics, and while the mechanics of the game are generally the same, the experience is just not one that I found terribly compelling. However, the 3-player game, 4-player game, like you said, I really feel like this takes a very common mechanic with deck building, and with a slight little twist, makes a big impact, right? This does not play like any other deck builder that I have come across.
Yes.
Maybe this mechanic is out there in another game. I haven't seen it, haven't heard about it. And so I think that in a game like this, which is probably going to have a pretty small print run unless something changes, I think it's very interesting to see if someone else going to play this, some other designer, some other person that maybe in the future will try to develop a game, will they implement that into something that becomes larger and it's all of a sudden, oh, the new kind of twist on deck building, because it makes a difference. It changes the pacing of the game tremendously. It changes the interaction between the players, because I have to worry about, if I go back home, I know it's going to take me at least 2 turns, more than likely, to get back up towards the top. If Camilla and Z and Roy or whoever is already up there, that puts a lot of pressure on me, and that changes the way the game feels.
Well, and the inverse of that also is, if I'm up here somewhere, but I now have enough money to buy that card I want, do I stay up here and risk you jumping back and buying it?
Yep.
That's
Or do
huge.
I jump back now and purchase that thing and start from the bottom again?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Also, if I haven't seen some of my best cards yet in my deck has ended up towards the bottom, I'm shuffling it all up again.
Right.
Again, it's these little things, but they really do all add up.
They really
Or the
do.
contrast of that, all my good cards are out and I don't have access to any of those camping actions right now to stack my deck. I'd rather just start afresh. I'm going to go back home.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're right, there's lots of those little micro decisions that just really sell the experience.
Well, there you go, folks. That is 3 8 out of 10. Really fun little game. Expedition is one that, if you are a deck building fan or just want a neat twist on some of those ideas, maybe you should try to keep an eye out for this one. Give it a try, or I don't know.
Come to a dice tower event.
come play with us.
Hey, we'll have it in the library.
Yeah, exactly. Ask one of us to teach it to you. Yeah, this is going in, I'm pretty sure.
It's got a sticker.
Oh, it's got
on
a
it.
sticker.
Yep.
It's in.
There we go. All right, everybody, thanks very much. My name is Z Garcia.
I'm Milla Cleghorn.
I'm Mike DeLisio.
Enjoy exploring, everybody.
Dig them holes.